Welcome to the Somos Sunnyside podcast, brought to you by the Communications Department of the Sunnyside Unified School District. Thank you for tuning in while we share stories about the bright side of education.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. That's right, we are Sunnyside. I'm your host, the proud superintendent of the Sunnyside Unified School District, Jose Gastelum. And we got an awesome show for you today. We got a special guest, and I can't wait to get to it. This individual was just elected as the newest member of City Council. I've been told to call her the newest City Council woman member of the city of Tucson. We have Selina Barajas in the house here today. So, hello, Mrs. Barajas, or should I say City Council woman Barajas?
Hello. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. We are so excited as Sunnyside and the Sunnyside community resides in Ward 5.
Yes, it does.
And so much to talk about, so a lot of transitionings happening, and the elections just concluded. And, although you ran unopposed in the final election there, I want to talk a little bit about the primary, because, in that race, you did have some competition, and I know a lot of work takes place. But let's just tell the listeners what this means, right? What is Ward 5? What areas does it cover? Formerly, the city council member was Richard Fimbres, who held that position for many, many years.
16 years.
16 years. Wow. And so now you are the first woman, first Latina, to be elected into Ward 5. So how does that sound?
Well, I'm really honored, grateful to be here in this position. I don't take it lightly. I've learned a lot, so much during this journey. I started this journey officially in January. But before that, I did some homework, and I did look back at who's been here in this seat. So yes, Council Member Richard Fimbres was here prior. He recently retired, stepped down earlier, and Council Member Perez stepped in and is currently the council member, and he'll step down when I officially get sworn in December 2nd. And prior to that, the council member that I remember growing up was Steve Leal. Always,
yes.
I remember seeing him at different restaurants around town, having meetings in his suit and in ties, even at the hottest summer days. Always dressed super professional. And before that, I believe it was Roy Laus. And I didn't know, stepping into this role, that there wasn't a female that had ran and approached this this role. So yeah, when I stepped in and decided to run, I was like, wow, I'm the first female to run. And looking back at the schools, I'm actually the first candidate, or the first now elect, to have attended a SUSD school. I attended Elvira Elementary School, so that is also a big honor for me, because Sunnyside Unified School District does compose the majority of Ward 5. Both Sunnyside and Desert View are both within Ward 5. There's 6 wards here in the city of Tucson. If you're unfamiliar with the boundaries, Ward 5, the northern tip is Broadway. The neighborhoods are Miles, Arroyo Chico, kind of south of Reed Park area, all the way down to the airport southeast. There's still some neighborhoods almost like to Vail area. So it is a very big area. A lot of the barrios, like Barrio Santa Rita, Santa Rosa, San Antonio, Sunnyside, half of Sunnyside neighborhood, Cherry Avenue, Desert, or Tres Pueblos area, Desert Shadows. So
absolutely.
So a lot of neighborhoods.
So a lot of big part of the Sunnyside community. And just for the listeners out there, the Sunnyside community is composed of Ward 1 and Ward 5, but
Correct.
The majority being Ward 5. So we are excited that you are in this role, and from what I hear is you're going to be sworn in early December, right? And so that's when we can start just blowing your phone up, right?
Yes, officially. Everybody's been blowing my phone up already, but officially, You can send an official
bet.
email to my work email
I
by
bet.
then.
So, well, again, big congratulations. When we found out you were running, we were super, super excited as a community. And I think, the community showed their support. You convincingly, won these elections with the majority of the votes. And, what do you attribute that to? What does it mean to you, being elected? And what was your strategy in terms of, why did you receive the support you received? Because it's pretty phenomenal when you look at the percentages.
Well, going back to when I started this journey of campaigning, so it took me a while to really think about entering this role of politics. In January is when I decided to put my name in the hat. I did run against two other folks in the primary, and I knew I was going to have to work hard because both were super qualified and also both had prior experience. And with my community engagement background and with my deep roots, I knew that I could bring that to the table. But also, being a fourth generation Tucsonan, being from this community, I brought that as well. And the fact that both my parents, are proud SUSD retirees, taught here in the district, they knew these neighborhoods and they canvassed alongside me, as well as a lot of family and friends. They volunteered their time every week. We went grassroots style and we knocked on the doors.
Right?
We knocked on the doors multiple times throughout the week, starting in March. But before that, I wanted to hit this campaign in a big way, and I wanted to launch very visible. So what we did was we brought out the community during Fiesta de los Vaqueros week, and we brought out the community at a local restaurant on the corner of 6th and Irvington, Taqueria La Esquina, in front of the rodeo grounds, across from Rudy Garcia Park, across from El Pueblo Center, which is in Ward 5. And we brought out the families to come and be a part of this historic campaign because our neighborhoods haven't experienced a campaign in, again, over 16 years because Councilmember Richard Fimbres ran unopposed in the primary. So they haven't had to really hear that knock on the door in throughout those years. So I wanted our community to experience a campaign if it was their first time signing a petition, donating, or canvassing. I wanted them to be a part of it and not to feel intimidated. So that was a big part of bringing people in from the very beginning.
Yeah, so I think it's just an awesome strategy. I mean, people, they want authenticity, right?
Correct.
They want conversations. They want down to earth people. They don't want, and with all due respect, they don't want politicians just barking at them, right?
Yes.
And so they want to have honest conversations. And as I've seen a lot of your media interviews and your speeches, you always go back to the grassroots effort. You go back to this piece of knocking on doors, talking to the people, listening to the people of this community. And one thing that was pretty impressive is that after you clearly won the primary elections and you were running unopposed in the final elections, you kept campaigning. Yeah. You kept canvassing. It could have been it was like already pretty much a done deal. You were in and you were although not officially elected, it was going to happen. And so I think that sends a real positive message to the community that it's just not about the win. It's about doing the work. And so it's about having conversations and listening, to the community members. And so, I want to talk a little bit about, your priorities. You've talked about, the zone. You talked about, what areas you cover in Ward 5. And what are going to be your priorities? Because I'm sure you get that question all the time of what are you going to focus on? What are you going to tackle first? I mean, there's so many things to do, right? Like there's so many issues to tackle, and it takes a village, it takes a team, and sometimes it takes funding, and sometimes it takes other resources. So how would you answer that question to the listeners of what are Selina Barajas' priorities?
Well, even going before that, talking about how you just said knocking all the way to the end, even though I didn't have an opponent at the general election, just explaining to our neighbors that there was the primary and the general. Our community might not have been aware that they were going to have to vote multiple times, and then dealing with the special election in the midst of it with CD7, with the special congressional election. Our neighbors had 4 ballots.
And Proposition 416.
Yes, and the proposition being knocked at. So that was really important, and that's why I wanted to.
For Sunnyside, right?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to knock on the doors all the way up into the end, because that is really important for me to work alongside our neighborhood schools and to let our families know, hey, there is a local election, and also there is this on the ballot to support our local schools. So beyond that, right, our Ward 5 has historically had the lowest amount of folks that go out and vote and the lowest amount of registered voters. So it was important to me, one, that they get to see a face to the name and also get to know who their representative will soon be, but also thinking down the road of hopefully that they'll come out and vote, if it's not this election, at the next election, to increase those numbers. And then thinking of their priorities. I went in here thinking, these are my priorities. This is what I want to do. And then the more I started knocking at the doors, the more I started to hear, and the more I started to see then citywide, because during the general, I got to go to all the wards. I knocked on every single neighborhood in Ward 5, and I won every single precinct in Ward 5 in the primary. And it confirmed what I saw and what I heard. So I'll tell you what my priorities were going into this, and then I'll tell you what I heard at the doors and how it kind of aligned, but also how some of my priorities are shifting. So I went in here, priorities were, making sure that our parks were going to be safe and accessible for our families, that they're going to have places to play and have green places to congregate. So that goes into also environmental justice, making sure that our families have access to safe, clean water, air, and again, green spaces, safer streets, making sure that our families have access to transit, supporting our local businesses, our local economy, making sure that our businesses thrive. As somebody that's soon going to open a small business, I know how important our small businesses are to our community. And then always it's thinking of our community engagement and really focusing on our youth voices, because they are our future. So having the youth voices in the forefront. So I brought a lot of youth a part of this campaign. I had our youth knock alongside me. A lot of Sunnyside and Desert View students and alum were a part of this and very instrumental, helping me at social media, helping me knock on doors and talk peer-to-peer with our voters and our future voters. So that was very important. And then now what I heard at the doors, the top 2 priorities at the doors were street lights and street maintenance. And I saw this firsthand. A lot of our streets need improvements. They're safe to drive when they go to work, school, and that is something that I'm going to work hard at priority first before we lay out any big improvement projects. It's going to be, let's make sure that our streets are paved, our residential streets are taken care of, and make sure that our street lights are all on, because some of our lights aren't working. So that was something that I heard, and that's something that I saw while canvassing. A lot of our lights weren't on while I was knocking on doors. And then the other thing that I heard a lot from our residents were, feeling unsafe when they do go out and they want to use some of our public amenities like our parks, dealing with some drug activity in our unhoused population. So making sure that we figure out some resources and making sure that we get folks in shelter and work closely with our nonprofit partners in the county to make sure that, that they have a safe place to be and that our families can use these public amenities. So those were really our top issues that I heard at the doors.
All right. So there you heard it from Selina Barajas. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go away. We got so much more to talk about. We'll be right back.
Sunnyside students can have it all, learning and growing to graduate college, career, and community ready. Don't believe us? Just watch. At Sunnyside Unified School District, we are preparing our graduates with real-world skills and experiences. Our graduates are leaving Sunnyside to pursue an Ivy League education, becoming collegiate-level athletes, and earning prestigious scholarships such as the Gates Millennium, Dell, and Dorrance.
All right, so City Council Member Barajas here, City Councilwoman Barajas here. Let me correct myself. And we were talking about the priorities, and one of the things that you mentioned was that you had to make some shifts based on the feedback you got from the community, and and it demonstrates your servant leadership style. Getting the feedback, making shifts, and really hearing what the community has to say. I mean, there's so many priorities, to tackle, as we mentioned, and some of the feedback you got were, things that mean a lot to residents. Like street lights, the roads, the maintenance of roads, and pavements, and making sure it's safe. The unhoused community is a whole another big topic. That I know it's not just a Ward 5 issue. It's a citywide and probably statewide and nationwide issue, right? In terms of those that feedback that you received. And so I think one of the difficult things also is how do you solutionize these things when sometimes there's funding issues, right? And leading an organization like public schools like we do in our world, it helps to have funding, and when you don't have funding, you have to go look for the resources. And so being that you're going to have individuals say, well, when are you going to fix my road? When are you going to, how do you prioritize that? How does the city of Tucson make that a priority? I mean, I've seen there's been a lot of efforts with proposition.
Yeah, because there's already some neighborhoods that are on the list, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So there was a proposition passed in a couple of years ago where there's been an effort to improve roads. We're seeing it in our neighborhoods. We're seeing it around our schools. The improvement of parks. Gani Barreras Park. Has a nice splash pad, and then Barrio Nopal Park just opened up in front of Challenger Middle School, which I know it's Ward 1, but still it's the communities come together at these parks. And so one of the things, and here's where I'm getting at, and I'm sure you're going to hear this because I hear it all the time, and it does bug me sometimes when people will make a comment like, well, why doesn't the South Side have these resources like the North Side would? Well, why does it take so long to get these resources here when we've seen them over there? And an example, and this is before you came into the picture here, was Brandy Fenton Park. I remember going to that park for the very first time, and they had a splash pad, and so it took several years before Gani Barreras Park got their splash pad. So and we. Growing up here, it's hard not to take it personal, right? Yeah. And so I'm glad that we have an individual like yourself that has deep roots here in this community, that we know we're going to have a voice at the table when it comes to some of these things. And our voices are being heard already, because now there's 2 parks in the community with splash pads. And I know Mission Manor Park is, going to get some major upgrades as well. And so, we're very happy to hear that as a community. I want to go back to pose a question about, how do schools play a major role in the community, but also how does City Council, Ward 5 and Ward 1 and the other wards, play a significant role in education as well, right? Being a daughter of educators, shout out to Mr. Rene Rodriguez and Gracie Rodriguez. They dedicate their lives, as educators here in Sunnyside, and both probably put in over 30 some years of service. And so your brother, he's a teacher, Rene Jr., and his wife, Andrea, works in the district, serving students, and their kids come to the district. So your Tia Artie was my kindergarten teacher, right? Shout out to her. And so I know that you feel strongly about public education and education as a whole, especially here in the Sunnyside community. So how can schools help? How do they play a major role? But also, how does City Council play a major role in education as well?
Well, and I don't want to start listing all my cousins and everybody, but shout out to all my family that works here with Sunnyside, because I have a family member probably at every single school site here. But the pride. I just feel like Sunnyside Unified School District brings so much pride to our neighborhoods. I saw that and I witnessed it just this past weekend with Desert View winning the football game. I just saw so many people so excited, and that goes into the neighborhoods and that goes into the homes. And I feel like, and that's shout out to Coach Bonillas and his players out there, and families listening, and just to all the students at every single school, because I know every student and family is working really hard no matter what you all are doing. But my parents really taught me, and I saw firsthand, and not really realizing what they were doing. And I don't know if they did this intentionally, but this is what I try to do now as a mom. And I try to bring my daughters with me at all these public events, because I would go with my dad and my mom at different community events. If my dad was coaching at Desert View, or if he was at Sierra, or then he ended his career at Sunnyside, or my mom was doing a school carnival at Elvira. Like, they would bring us to all these events, and then I would see them talking to families, and then we'd go down to the street to a grocery store, and then we'd see a different family, and talking about what was happening in the neighborhoods. And me and my dad talk about this a lot, about the pride that our families carry into the neighborhoods. And that's something that we see diminishing. We see a lot of that pride leaving, because a lot of our families don't know each other like how they used to. And thinking about here in Ward 5, that is something that I want to bring back. And I've been thinking a lot about this now, entering this role of how can we be a better and stronger bridge partner with our school districts, both TUSD and SUSD. Like, I want to work hard at bringing our office here, and vice versa, having you all come into our office in our neighborhoods, because when these kids leave, they're going into our neighborhoods, they're going into our Ward 5 neighborhoods. And how can we create opportunities for them to feel safe? How can we create opportunities for the families to have better resources or some activities at the parks? But also, how can we support, continue to support programs like KidCo, Peeps,
That's a big one.
I know that's a big one. My baby, Sophia, she was here at, the Peeps program with the district. That's another cousin of mine, Miss Lopez, Miss Sunny. But these are all programs that work hand in hand. And I know together we could create those opportunities to bring more pride. And when you bring in more pride into the neighborhoods, then you get to know your neighbors, you get to wave to each other, you get to know each other. And another priority I didn't mention was housing, and making sure that our families stay here in the homes and reinvest in the homes. Because another surprising statistic that I found out while campaigning was Ward 5 has the second most homeowners in all of the wards. So that shows me that we're invested here in our neighborhoods. So that will help continue to reinvest in these neighborhoods. So I want our Ward 5 families, when and I know it's a hard conversation to have, but when Nana, Rosa passes away, you don't want to talk about what happens to that home. But we have to have those conversations of like, don't sell that home and move away. You stay here in the neighborhood and reinvest here in the neighborhood. So those are going to be conversations that I also want to think ahead, so our families could stay here in the district, work here in the district, and leave that long-lasting impact.
That's right. Our community needs to continue to thrive, have a vibrant community. Mm-hmm. We need more babies in the community, because we need more enrollment here at Sunnyside as well.
Yeah.
But all joking aside, I think you're right. We have a lot of our voters are
older,
in the age range of 50 and on, right?
I have those stats. Yeah, those are the people voting, and I've been trying to tell our young folks, and that's why I brought in the young people to. I sound old right now, the young people, but, I tell folks 30 and under to come out with me, because these initiatives are set in for the next 15 to 20 years. So I always tell them these issues are going to affect, you all. So, and those are the people that vote, that have the least percentage of voters. But, I'm hoping that we're going to change that, and we're going to work hard at getting folks out to vote.
Absolutely. it's really about educating your community to make a difference, right? And so, it's so important for, our young adults to get out there and vote and make a difference. I truly believe when you invest in schools, it really improves communities, right?
Yes.
So if we want great communities, if we want great schools, then we invest in students, and then they come back in a role where they're giving back and they're productive members of their communities. And so I think you mentioned something super important. I think it's so important to be engaged with the youth, be engaged with students, and one of the things that I can assure you to our listeners out there, assure our listeners, is that I know you'll be visible. I know you'll be visible in our schools, you'll be visible at community events, and that's something that is so important because, as you mentioned through your campaigning, they see how genuine you are, they see how passionate you are about these issues, and you're here to really make a change, right? To improve the lives of the community members in Ward 5, but Tucson as a whole. And so, we're excited to continue this partnership with you, and we can't wait to get started. Again, I know you get sworn in on December 2nd. And so, for all of you that are out there listening to this, if you have questions, if you want to get involved, I'm sure they can contact, your office, contact you. Is there a website? Is there an email that you want to share with the community?
Yeah, you can contact right now. I do have this social media, Vote Selina for Ward 5. I also have the website, Vote Selina for Ward 5. That's soon going to shift. I'll soon have our official, Ward 5 page. But if you're not familiar, Ward 5 has an office on Ajo and Park area. That is going to be the office that's accessible to you all. It's going to, we're going to have our doors open to you all to have meetings, even if you don't live in Ward 5. If you want to know what ward you're at, you could come in. We'll help direct you. I love Ward 5. I love all the neighborhoods where we walked in Canvas. I love talking to the neighbors. I am proud of these neighborhoods. I've seen some of the most hardworking parents, some of the most proud parents, a lot of Sunnyside parents that are so proud of their students, and a lot of them that are off and away in college that they told me some of their kids came back to just vote during this election. Awesome, yeah. So I'm really honored to serve you all, and I cannot wait for you all to come and join me, because it can't just be me speaking out. I'm really hopeful that you all can come and engage and speak out at some mayor and council meetings. Come join me as being a part of a board and commission, or get involved in your neighborhood association, because it is going to take a collective effort, and this is our time. This is a new era, and if you have any questions, please reach out.
Yeah, absolutely. You heard it here from Selina Barajas. And, the last thing I just want to hit on is you are definitely a positive role models for young ladies out there. Just for the youth in general, for those individuals, the youth out there that are thinking about pursuing, a career like yours. I mean, you're a good example of someone that grew up on this side of town, graduated, got your degree, got your master's degree. I believe you graduated from U of A and UCLA, correct? In Los Angeles. And here you are coming back to your community and, wanting to make a difference. So, to those, it's just I think of my daughter a lot, right? And I've always raised her to be an independent, strong young lady. And she's only 14, but to the young ladies out there, I mean, this could be you. You can be the next Selina Barajas. You can be the next mayor of Tucson. I mean, and so, it just brings a lot of pride, and brings a lot of hope too, to be honest with you, in what we have, for the future here in not only the Sunnyside community, but Ward 5 in general and the city of Tucson. All right, so as we're winding down here, I do have a special shout out to Ward 5. I want to give a shout out to Lupita Robles, who works out of Ward 5, and she's just been amazing partner for Sunnyside Unified School District with all the changes that have been going on the last several months there in Ward 5. She truly has been a great partner and someone that we can call and someone that follows through and deeply cares about our families. And so a big shout out to her. And, do you have any last comments or any last shout outs that you'd like to share before we end here?
Well, just shout out to my family. I love you all. Shout out to the community. Shout out to you all here in the room. Thank you for allowing me to be here again. Thank you, Mr. Gastelum, for this opportunity, sharing my voice. And to you all listening, if you all want to come out and see me get sworn in, it will be on Tuesday, December 2nd, 10 a.m. Visit my social media page, Vote Selina for Ward 5 for more details. This is open to the community. I would love to have you all come and join me. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. City Councilwoman Selina Barajas. We can't wait for you to get started. And that concludes this episode of Somos Sunnyside. Hasta la próxima. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Somos Sunnyside. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and found it entertaining. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to subscribe and share our podcast with la comunidad. For updates on future episodes and more, be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website at susd12.org. We appreciate your support and can't wait to have you back for the next episode. Hasta la próxima vez en Somos Sunnyside.